Hello everyone and welcome back to our ritual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Beis. And Mir Hashem, today we will be learning Daf Ayin Vav Amid Aleph. We pick up on Ayin Hey Amid Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Devarim HaNohagim B'Seuda, the halachas that pertain to how we comport ourselves during a Seuda. We pick up Siman Kuf Ayin Daled Sif Hey, 4 lines down on Ayin Hey Amid Beis. Looks like we have a lot of work left to do on Ayin Hey Amid Beis, but not really, because we did the vast majority of the Mishnah Berurah already, so we don't have that much. Looks could be deceiving. Before we begin, our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanesuna Batzara Bashivya Ha'im Debein Bayam Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yirachem Aleim Veitzir Mitzar L'Revacha Me'afel L'Oira Umishibed L'Gula Hashtabagolo Zman Kariv and Emaramein. Our learning should be a schus for Shalema for Ariel Yosef ben Miriam Razel and Meir ben Chayesar. Says the Mechaber Siman Kuf Ayin Daled Sif Hey. Kol ma sheshoise b'soich ha'seuda dailoi b'vracha achas. So, if you remember, the title of this siman is Din Berchas Hayayin b'seuda, the halachas that pertain to making a berachah agafin on wine during the Suda. So now says the Mechaber, Kol ma sheshoise b'soich ha'seuda, whatever wine you're going to drink, b'soich ha'seuda. If you remember, yesterday we spoke about yayin shelifnei hamazayin, yayin toich hamazayin, yayin la'achar hamazayin. Right now we're speaking about yayin b'soich ha'seuda. You're sitting down to a Suda, and now in the middle of the Suda you make a berachah agafen. Says the Mechaber, whatever wine you will drink during the Suda will be covered by one berachah agafen. You don't have to make a new berachah agafen for each cup of wine. Ella im kein kisheberach lo yahayadaita lishtais ella oisai kais. Unless, now the phraseology of the Mechaber is a little tricky. We have to understand what the Mechaber means. He means like this. The Mechaber just told you one berachah of hagafen will cover every drink of wine that you have during the Suda, but now he gives you an exception to that rule. Ella im kein kisheberach, unless when you made a berachah agafen, lo hayadaita lishtais ela oisai akais. Unless when you made the berachah agafen, you had intent that this is the only cup of wine I'm going to drink. So you had a very positive intent. You had a strict intent that I'm only drinking this cup of wine. And then the nimlach, then you changed your mind, lishtais acher, and you decided to drink another cup. Then you're going to have to make a new berachah agafen for the new cup of wine that you're going to drink. So again, let's just get this straight. The Mechaber opens up by telling me, if you make a berachah agafen on a kais of yayin during your Suda, and you drink it, and now later on in the Suda you decide you want some more of that Cabernet, and you take another drink, and then somebody takes out a Chardonnay, and you want a drink of some Chardonnay, and you take a third drink of wine, they're all covered with one berachah agafen. And that's true even if when you made the original berachah agafen, you didn't have das on 3 cups of wine. You didn't have any specific das. You made a berachah agafen to drink yayin during the Suda. So, you want to drink 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups? They're all covered by the same berachah agafen. When is it that the berachah agafen cannot cover multiple cups? That's when you made the original berachah agafen, you did so with the das, I'm drinking 1 cup of wine. I'm not drinking more. I'm drinking 1 cup of wine. And you drank 1 cup of wine. And then later on, you're like, you know what? I changed my mind. I really want more. In that case, you got to make a new bracha, because your das clearly did not cover the 2nd cup of wine. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah that spells this out. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut to Zayin b'soich ha'suda. Ritzayin aloymar, what the Mechaber is talking about is afilu shaloi b'bas achas. The Mechaber didn't mean that if you drink one cup and then another cup and then another cup right away, they're all covered by one berachah agafin. There's no kiddush involved in that. What the Mechaber is telling you is you had one cup with the first spice, with the appetizer, and then you had another cup while you were waiting for the main, and then you had another cup during the main. They're all covered by one berachah agafin. Ice cutting your zayin, berachah hakas, they're all covered with one bracha. The mistama kisheberech berachah agafin al kaisa echad, because min hastam, by default, we assume that when you made the berachah agafin on one kais of yayin, daitay hayagamkein, your mind also was on al kol masha yishta b'say chasuda. When you made the berachah agafin, min hastam, unless you had specific das otherwise, the default position is that when you made a berachah agafin on that first kais of yayin, you had in mind not just that cup, whatever yayin I drink during the Suda should be covered by that cup. And again, you didn't have to have specific das. Okay? Hineni mamucha de mezumen, I'm making a berachah agafin, I wanted to cover all the wine that I drink during the Suda. No, you don't have to have that das. That's the stam das. But if you have das that I want the berachah agafin to only cover one cup, and then you drink more, that's when you run into problem and you need a new bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut yud ches. Lo yahayadaitai. Now I told you that the lashon of the Mechaber is a bit tricky, and that's where the Chavetz Chaim comes in over here. You see, if you read the Mechaber, the wording is funny. The Mechaber says one berachah agafin covers all the wine you're going to drink, ela im kain kisheberach, unless when you made the berachah agafin, lo yahayadaitai lishtais, you didn't have in mind to drink ela oisei kais, only that cup. And then v'nimlach, you changed your mind l'shtais acher. Now you could read the Mechaber, and you could read into the Mechaber that, oh, so if I had das, look, I only knew about the cup of wine that was in front of me. I didn't know about any other wine. I didn't have my mind on any other wine. So when I made the berachah agafin, I had das, this cup of wine that's in front of me. So then the Mechaber is saying you have to make a new bracha for the next wine? No. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's not what it means. What the Mechaber wants to say is, shahaya daitai, he had specific das, shaloi lishtais, that he is not going to drink, ela oisei akais, that cup of wine, v'lo yoiser, and not more. So you hear, when is the Mechaber saying that you need a new bracha if you take another drink of wine? It's only when you had specific das, when you made the bracha, limiting yourself to one glass of wine. Now, why did you do that? Maybe you didn't want to run into trouble with DUI. Maybe you sat down to the Suda and you said, I don't want to overindulge. I don't want to get heartburn. I don't want to get reflux. I don't want to have a hangover tomorrow. I want to be able to drive home, whatever it is. But when you made the berachah agafin, you had in your mind, I'm drinking one cup of wine. That's it. And then later you changed your mind. Then you need a new bracha. Later he changed his mind that he wants to drink more. Now, the next few lines of the Mishnah Berurah are very, very critical, very, very negeya. We have to read this very carefully. But let's just encapsulate in our minds over here what we just said when it comes to yayin. You sat down to the Suda, there's a nice Chardonnay on the table, you poured yourself a nice cup of wine, you made a berachah agafin. What was your das? Nothing. You didn't have any specific das. You were holding a cup of Chardonnay. You made a hagafin on it. In that case, we say, now they bring out a Cabernet, you want more Chardonnay, whatever, you're all covered with one berachah agafin. Because min hastam, by default, when you make a berachah agafin at the Suda, we assume that you mean on whatever wine you're going to drink during the Suda. When do you get in trouble? Only if you had specific das. I only want to drink one cup. Then you change your mind and you want another cup. You need a new bracha. Why? Because very clearly your original bracha did not extend to the second cup of wine that you want to drink. Now we're going to talk about food. And this is the gaya to us all the time. You make a bracha on food during the Suda. What does it cover and what does it not cover? Says the Mishnah Berurah, because of Taz. The Taz writes, This same halacha applies to eating food. Kigoyin, for example. You went to the grocery store and you bought a roll. You bought a bagel, right? So you needed lunch. During your lunch break, you went across the street to the grocery and you bought a bagel for lunch. And now you come back to the office or you come to your house and you sit down to eat your lunch. What's your lunch? A bagel, okay? So you went, you bought one bread, one bagel, one roll, and you were planning on eating the whole bagel. When you made hamaitzi on what? On your bagel, okay? And then when you finished the bagel, you say, that was really a good bagel. I haven't had a good bagel like that in a long time. That was a good bagel. I'd like to have another one. So you send somebody across the street to the grocery store, liknois oid. You tell them, go buy me another bagel. So what happened over here? Let's analyze this. You needed lunch. You went to the store. You bought one bagel for lunch. You came back. You sat down. You made a hamaitzi. What did you make the hamaitzi on? Your bagel. And your thought process was, that bagel is my lunch. When you finished the bagel, you decided, you know what? I'd like to have another one. So you send somebody, do me a favor. I'm going to get into trouble if I get up and walk out. Shinui makam on the bracha. I got a bench. I can't leave. What do I do? Do me a favor. Go across the street. Buy me another bagel. In that case, says the Mishnah Berurah, tzarich levar shenis hamaitzi. You got to make a new hamaitzi on the second bagel. Why? So he spells it out for you. V'atam, says the Mishnah Berurah, demaisav moichichin, because your actions prove your actions. You went to the store and what did you buy? You bought one bagel for lunch. So your maisim make it very clear that you intended your lunch to be one bagel. So when you made the bracha, you made it on one bagel. Why are you eating more now? Because you changed your mind. You decided, I want another bagel. So you sent somebody to get you a new bagel. Dim like Cain, because if it wasn't that way, if you wanted to have more than one bagel, you would have bought more than one bagel. Elamai, what happened over here? You bought one bagel. You made a bracha al das one bagel. Now you changed your mind. You want to eat more. In that case, the hamaitzi didn't go on what you're eating now. It's a new eating. Without a bracha, you got to make a new hamaitzi. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, we got to be very careful. We got to note everything the Mishnah Berurah says. Aval, however, now let's look at a more common scenario. Aval, however, im yesh loy babayis lechem. Let's say you have in your house, you have bread. So let's say it's Sunday, and you have leftovers from Shabbos Kiddush. You have a beautiful challah. You have a beautiful challah sitting in the kitchen. Now you want to eat lunch. So what do? You went over to the lechem, and you cut off a piece of challah. Or maybe you cut off 2 pieces of challah, whatever it is, and you took it to the dining room table, to the kitchen table, to sit down to eat lunch. And then later on in the meal, you decide, you know what, I want another piece of challah. So you get up to go cut yourself another piece of challah. Are we going to say the same thing? So again, we have 2 scenarios here. In the first scenario, you went to the grocery store and you bought yourself 1 bagel for lunch. In that case, we say, when you made the bracha, you made it on the 1 bagel that you bought for lunch. Now you decided you want another bagel and you sent somebody to the store to go buy you another bagel. In that case, your das was only on the bagel that you bought. You want to eat another bagel, now you need a new hamaitzi. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 has nothing to do with the grocery store. Scenario number 2 is between your kitchen table and the kitchen counter. You have a beautiful challah on the kitchen counter. You sliced 2 slices to sit down and make yourself a sandwich. You sat down by the kitchen table. You ate a sandwich. Then you decided, I'm still hungry. You got up. You went to the kitchen counter. You sliced off another piece of challah. Do we say, hey, you sliced 2 pieces of challah for your lunch? Your bracha was al das the 2 pieces. Now you want another piece. You got to make a new bracha. Do we say that? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. Ein zen nimlach. In this case, we don't look at you as a nimlach. We don't look at you in this case as this is a new eating. The derech adam kainhu. Because between your kitchen table and your kitchen counter, that's the derech. Why did you slice 2 pieces of challah for your lunch? Because you figured 2 pieces of challah will be enough. And if I need more, it's right here in the kitchen. I'm not making a hard decision. Right now, I cut 2 pieces. That's my lunch, 2 pieces. I made hamotzi on 2 pieces. You want a 3rd piece? You got to make a new bracha. No, it wasn't a hard decision. I took 2 pieces because I figured I'll eat 2 pieces. But if I want more, it's right there on the kitchen counter. I'll just get up, take 5 steps. I'll go take another slice. So when I took the 2 slices, it wasn't la'afuke. It wasn't to exclude that I'm not going to eat more. Not so when you go to the grocery. When you go to the grocery, you have to make a decision. What do I need to buy for lunch? I need a bagel. That's all I need. I'm buying a bagel. So your decision was, I'm buying a bagel for lunch. And you went to your house, you didn't have any more available. In order to get more, you have to send somebody to the store to get more. That's called nimlach. In that case, you need a new bracha. But the kitchen counter, you don't need a new bracha. So you got up to the walk to the kitchen counter and he took more. Very, very negeya. Okay. Now we go to the Ramah, 3 lines off the bottom. Ayin Hayom Bey says the Ramah Hago. V'chein, similarly, mi sheba l'seuda. Somebody comes to a seuda. Now, the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us this means that you came without invitation. So you're a bacher in Eretz Yisrael, learning in the mirror, and you need a Friday night Suda. You weren't invited to the Suda. You didn't have a place to go. You found out that there's a place where you could walk in and you could sit down and you could eat. So you walked in and you sat down and you ate. V'chein, misha balu Suda. You came to a Suda. U'mayshitin lai harbe kaisais. And they offered you multiple cups of wine. Now, the scenario that we're talking about over here is not the typical scenario that we have in 2024. Okay? The typical scenario we have now is, if there's wine for people to drink, there's a bottle of wine on the table. And whatever's on the table is fair game for whoever's sitting around the table. So you want wine, stretch out your hand, take wine. We're talking about a scenario over here where the wine's in the kitchen. The only way you're getting wine is if the balabayas or the waiter or wherever it is brings you a bottle of wine and offers you wine. You don't have the ability to go take wine. So what happened over here is you came in and you're not an invited guest. If you're an invited guest, so then there's an assumption that I'm expected to be able to get whatever I want because I was invited here for a Suda. So the Balabayas wants to please me. So if I want wine, I'll ask for wine, I'll get wine. But you're not an invited guest. You walked in, you sat down by the table. You are at the mercy of the Balabayas. You're at the mercy of the waiter. And now they offer you a glass of wine. So they offer you a glass of wine, you make a berachah agefan. Okay. Do you know if you're going to get another cup of wine? You have no idea. Do you have the ability to get another cup of wine on your own? No. You're at the mercy of the Balabayas. If they bring you another cup of wine, you'll have another cup of wine. In that case, says the Ramah, he has to make a new bracha agefan on each cup of wine. Why? To heavy nimlach. Because by force of the circumstances, you are considered a nimlach. Nimlach means you changed your mind. Every time you get a new kais of yayin, you can't say that your das by the original bracha was on this second kais of yayin. You had no idea if you're going to get another kais of yayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ice cut in your test. We're talking about a person, Shabbat Suda, he came to a Suda, Hainu she'enem in akruim. He's not there by invitation. El Shabbat derech harai l'sham. He ended up over there. Lakach arina de heavy nimlach. Therefore, we say that he's a nimlach for each new kais of yayin. To b'shasha birech, because when he made the original agefan, lo yayu yedem yitnu lo yayid. He didn't know if they're going to offer him any more wine. Ukid l'kamad b'simit kofayin tefsiv dal v'hei ayin sham b'mishnah berurah. They offered him wine. They It didn't happen at one time. If it happened at one time, it would be covered by one bracha. But it didn't happen at one time. He came in, he sat down, have some wine. They offered him a cup of wine. He made a berachah agafin. Then after the far speis, they came, you know what? Here's another glass of wine. All right, we need a new bracha. Then after the roast beef by the entree, they offered him another cup of wine. Okay, another agafin. I had no idea it was coming. Next case in the Haggah, says the Haggah, 2 lines off the bottom, a little bit past the halfway mark on the line. V'chein similarly misha berach al kais berachas nisuin. If somebody makes a bracha on the kais of a chasana, kais berachas nisuin. Now, I'm not 100% sure which berachas nisuin the Ramah is referring to. Is he referring to the cup of yayin, the glass of wine that they drink under the chuppah? That's really berachas nisuin, right? That's asher kiddushaну b'mitzvos v'asalanu es arusais v'hitalanu es anasuis lanu ayidei chuppah v'kiddushin. That's nisuin, is under the chuppah, and we have a kais yayin there. Or maybe he means sheva brachas. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter, because the halacha is going to pertain the same way to either one. What the Ramah is saying is v'chein misha berach al kais berachas nisuin. Somebody made a bracha, either the one who had benching, he made a berachah agafin on the sheva brachas kais and the berachas abazin kais, or under the chuppah, the Masada Kiddushin, he made a berachah agafin on the kais of yayin, and now this is a kais shel bracha. And we know kais shel bracha, they like to pass around to give people the opportunity to drink for the kais shel bracha. So somebody is standing in the audience, and he heard the mevarech make the bracha on the kais shel bracha of the berachas nisuin. Now, there's a limited amount of wine in that kais. You don't know how far it's going to stretch. You have no way of knowing if you're going to have the opportunity to drink from it. So I'm sitting by the chasana, and the guy who had benching, and I'm listening, and I want to be yaitza with his bracha. But do I know that I'm going to get a drink? I don't know. Maybe they're going to give the kosher bracha to 20 people before it gets to me, and there's going to be none left. So says the Ramah, nobody knows how far the kais is going to go. Each individual who wants to drink from the kosher bracha has to make a berachah agafin. Why? The mikri nimlach. Because the Ramah says, how do you know that you're going to get from that wine? Again, you don't know how far the kais is going to be able to go. How much wine there is in there, how many people are going to drink from it, how much is each person going to drink. So if you're zoicha that the kosher bracha gets to you with yayin in it, says the Ramah, you need to make a bracha. Now, let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, not so pashut. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Katan Chaf Aleph, Al kais berachas nisuin, sheyesham harbe mesubin, there are a lot of guests sitting around over there, the kol kiyotza bazeh, or any other case like this. It could be any kosher bracha. It could be the kosher bracha by benching at a big family suda, and they benched al hakos, and you want to have some kosher bracha, but there's 30 people sitting there. You don't know if you're going to get any. Says the Mishnah Berurah, why? Says the Mishnah Berurah, so you have to be so careful. Because since you had no way of knowing for sure that the kosher bracha is going to make it to you, therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, by default, we assume that you didn't have das to be yotze with the berachah agafin of the mevarech. Because why should you? Why should you have in mind to be yotze with the berachah agafin of the mevarech on that kais if you have no way of knowing if the kais is going to get to you? Therefore, if you luck out, if you're zoicha and the kais does make it to you, you need to make a bracha of hagafin. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says over here. Let's finish the Mishnah Berurah. But v'ayin l'kamon simin kuf tzadik b'magen Avram sif katan zayin over Mishnah Berurah sham. So let's turn the pages and turn the page to tzadik hey amid beis. Tzadik hey amid beis simin kuf tzadik aleph. I'm sorry, simin kuf tzadik. This is in. If you turn to tzadik hey amid beis and you take a look at Mishnah Berurah ois katan yud tes. Now, again, what did we just say over here? In this whole beautiful Sif Hey that we're learning over here, what we are talking about is the question of how far does a bracha go? How many kaisais could a bracha cover? The Mechaber opened up by saying, you make a bar pri hagafen in a suda on one kais of yayin, it covers all the yayin you're going to drink in the suda. Because the default position is, when you made the hagafen, you had in mind whatever yayin you drink during the suda. Not that you had in mind. By default, without having specific das, we say that your bar pri hagafen covered whatever yayin you're going to drink in the suda. Unless you had specific das, I'm only drinking 1 cup of wine. If you had specific das, I'm only drinking 1 cup of wine. So then the bar pri hagafen only covers that kais. Then the Ramah segued, and the Ramah said, what happens if you go to a Suda, and you're not an official invited guest by the Suda? You crashed by a Suda, and they offered you a kais of yayin. You made a bar pri hagafen, it covers that kais. Does it cover the next kais? No. Why not? Because you had no way of knowing that another kais was going to come. So you have to make a new hagafen on the next kais. Then segues the Ramah. He says, how about by a chasana? By a chasana, the guy has benching. He makes a bar pri hagafen. There's 40 people between you and the kais. If you luck out and the kais gets to you, you need to make a bar pri hagafen. Mishnah Berurah says, why? Because since there's 40 people between you and the kais, you had no way of knowing that the kais was going to make it to you. So if the kais does make it to you, you got to make a bracha. Why, says the Mishnah Berurah? Because we assume that since there were 40 people between you and the kais, you didn't have in mind to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich. But what if you did have in mind to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich? What if you looked at the fellow who had benching and you said, I want to be yaitza with his bracha? Why? In case the kais makes it to me. If the kais makes it to me, I want to be able to drink kais shel bracha. So you know what? I'm going to be yaitza with his bar pri hagafen. In that case, then what the Mishnah Berurah says is not true. The Mishnah Berurah said the reason the Ramah says you have to make a new bracha is because we assume that you didn't have das to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich. Why not? Because why should you? You know that there's 40 people between you and the kais. You have no way of knowing that you're going to get the kais. So why would you have in mind to be yaitza with the bracha? So if you luck out and it does make it to you, you need to make a bracha. But what if you said, I'm going to take my chances? I'm going to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich, and I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to wait, because I can't talk. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to see if the kais makes it to me. If the kais makes it to me, I'll drink on the smach that I was yaitza with his bracha. What in that case? What's the halach in that case? So that's what the Mishnah Berurah talks about here. Tzadik Hei Amud Beis Ois Cotton Yud Tes. The Mechaber says over here that by a kais on Berkas Hamazon, if you don't know if the kais is going to make it to you, if it makes it to you, you have to make a bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah, why? Again, just like he says by us, the mistama, because by default, Eina Mechaved Lasis Beberkas Hamavarich, we assume you didn't have kavanah to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich. Why? Because you didn't know if the kais was going to make it to you. Because if Magen Avram, but the Magen Avram writes, De'im hamasubin niskavnu behedya, if the fellow sitting there has specific das, im yagia lehem hakais sheyetzu beberchasai, that if the kais makes it to him, he's having in das to be yaitza with the bracha of the mavarich, yaitzin bazeh, you are yaitza with the bracha. Im gam ha-mavarich diskavad l'haitzi b'berchasei kalechet be'amasubin, so long as the one who had made the hagafen had in mind to be yaitza everybody. V'chein iskimu harbe achroinim v'ach Yezaru kulav, everybody has to be careful. Misha writes a litam and a kais. Anybody who wants to take some of the kais shel bracha has to be al smach berkas hamavarich, based on the bracha of the mavarich. They all have to be careful. Shelo yasichu, that they should not speak. They shouldn't make a hefsek with speech. Ad sheyitamu min hakais, until they taste from the kais shel bracha. Kidei shelo yehi hefsek bein habracha le'teima. Now we go to Ayin Vav Amud Aleph. Top line in the Mechaber Siv Vav. Okay. So, we have seen that you sit down to a Suda, you make hamoitzi. The hamoitzi does not pater yayin. The hamoitzi paters any other food that you're going to eat during the Suda. The Hamaitzi paters any other drinks that you're going to drink during the Suda. You want to drink soda? You don't have to make a shackle. You pater it with the Hamaitzi. You want to drink iced tea? Pater it with the Hamaitzi. Whatever you're going to drink during the Suda, you pater it with the Hamaitzi, with the exception of Yayin. Yayin, the Hamaitzi does not pater the Yayin. Why? Because we saw in the beginning of the Siman that Yayin is rosh v'rishon l'chol hamashkim. Yayin is the king of drinks. And therefore, it's too chashuv, it's not a tuffle to the bread. Since it's not a tuffle to the bread, you can't pater the yayin with hamaitzi. So you could pater all other drinks from a bracha rishona with the hamaitzi, but you cannot pater yayin from a bracha rishona with the hamaitzi. How about bracha אחרונה? Bracha אחרונה, at the end of the Suda, you're going to bench. You're going to say berachah hamazon. Does that cover the yayin? Or do you have to make an agefen on the yayin? Says the Mishnah, says the Mechaber is cutting sivav. Ein levarech achar yayin shebesuda. You do not make a bracha achrona after drinking wine during a suda. You don't make an agefen on the yayin that you drank during the suda. Why? To berachas hamazon paitrasai. Because benching will pater the yayin from a bracha achrona. So very interesting. The hamaitzi does not pater the yayin from a bracha rishona. Why? Because yayin is not a tuffle to the pas. So hamaitzi can't pater the yayin from a bracha rishona. But benching does pater the yayin from a bracha achrona. You don't need to make an agefen on the wine that you drank during the suda. You pater it with berachas hamazon. Why? Very simple. Because the yayin that you drink during the suda is considered to be a davar haba machmas hasuda b'seich hasuda. It's a suda food. It's a suda drink. When you sit down to a suda, you drink. One of the things you drink is wine. So it's ba machmas hasuda. Berachas hamazon paters everything that comes machmas hasuda. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chav Gimel. Ein levarich. You don't make a bracha achrona. The berachas hamazon peitrasai. Because berachas hamazon is going to pater the yayin from a bracha achrona, kedin dvar maba machmas hasuda, like anything else that comes machmas hasuda, sheniftarin berachas hamazon. They're all covered by benching. Come on, shekasavdu b'sibik kofayin zayin. The yayin machmas hasuda hu chashuv. Because the yayin is considered to be something that comes machmas hasuda, the bal lishreis hamichael. Because like any other drink that you drink during the suda, it comes to wash down the food. So it's machmas hasuda. If it's machmas hasuda, it's covered by benching. V'af the bracha rishona mavarach al yayin kanal b'sif aleph. Even though the yayin needs its own bracha rishona, because it's not patered by the hamaitzi, bracha achrona loy. By bracha achrona, you don't have this. So there's a distinction between bracha rishona and bracha achrona. Why do we have this distinction? Because the reasoning for the two, the rationale for the two are very, very different. Hamaitzi can't pater the yayin from a bracha rishona because yayin is not a tuffle to pass. But benching could cover the yayin because the yayin came machmas hasuda, so it's covered by benching. You don't need a separate al hagefin. Weiter in Sivav. Back to the top line in the Shulchan Aruch, a little bit past the middle of the line. V'chein, and similarly, benching, and this is very catchy, v'chein, similarly, paiteres yayin shelifnei hamazon. Benching will pater the yayin that you had koydem hamazon from a bracha achrona. Now let's remember, what did we say is yayin koydem hamazon? Yayin koydem hamazon is a cup of wine that they drank before the beginning of the suda, which means before benching, which means before hamaitzi, which means before netilas yadayim. So you came to the suda, you're going to sit down to a suda, you're going to be kaveh suda ala pas, but before anything else, you made a bar pri agafen, and you drank a cup of wine. That's yayin koydem hamazon. Now you got up, you went, netilas yadayim, hamaitzi on the pas, and now you're having a suda. But you drank that wine before the suda. So there's room here for a question. Maybe if I drank wine before a suda, now I have to make an agefin on the wine, and then go wash the netilas yadayim, make hamaitzi, and sit down to the suda. Now if I drink wine during the suda, it doesn't need a bracha achrona, it's covered by benching. But how does the benching cover the wine that I drank before the suda, before I washed? Yet the Mechaber says that's what happens. V'chein peiteres yayin shelafnei hamazon. Benching is going to cover the berachah אחרונה for the yayin that you had before the Suda. And the Mechaber takes it a step weiter, and he says, Va'afilu loy haya lo yayin b'seich hamazon. And that's true even if you drink no wine during the Suda. So that's even a bigger kiddush. In other words, if you would drink wine during the Suda, so then you could have a logic like this. Look, I'm benching. We know that the benching covers the wine that I drink during the Suda, because the wine that I drink during the Suda is ba machmas hamazon. So benching patters that wine. So all right, once the benching patters the yayin that I'm drinking b'seich hamazon, maybe it also covers the yayin that I drank koydem hamazon. But over here it says to Mechaber, even if you didn't drink any wine toich hamazon, you only drank wine koydem hamazon, the benching will even cover the yayin that you drank koydem hamazon. Why? Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Well, let's just read the parentheses first. V'ayin lekamon soy siman reish ayin beis or inyan yayin shel havdalah shel aftei hamazon ayin lekamon siman reish tzadik tesif ches. Now, what's the explanation for this? I'll give you a heads up. The explanation for this is that, remember, I mentioned this yesterday, yayin koydem hamazon is considered an appetizer. That cup of wine that you drank before you washed it, before you made a moitzi, is liftayach hameyayim. It's the appetit kommt mit the essen. It's to open up the stomach to receive more food. That's an appetizer. It brings on the appetite. So the yayin that you drink koydem hamazon is an appetizer. And since it's an appetizer, even though you really drank it before the Suda started, because you drank it before the Tilas Yadayim and before Hamoitzi, it's still considered something that is machmas hasuda, because it's an appetizer to give you an appetite to eat the Suda. So it's considered machmas hasuda, and therefore benching covers it. Now, soon we're going to get a little complicated. Let's dive into the Mishnah Berurah here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, cut and chav daled. Shelifnei hamazon. We're talking about the yayin that you drank, lifnei hamazon. Why is it covered by benching? Because of what I just told you. Tekevin chabam liftayach hamayayim. Because since this is really an appetizer, lahamshich ha'adam l'tayvas hamaychel, to stimulate your appetite to want to eat the Suda, hevi gamken kidvar mabah machmas hasuda. So it's considered machmas hasuda, and it's covered by benching. Says the Mishnah Berurah, upashut, but it's obvious. It's only true if you drank this cup of wine right before the Suda. To have a kaschalta the Suda. So you could look at it as an appetizer. You could look at it as being attached and connected to the Suda. If you sit down at 12 o'clock and you drink a agefan, and you drink a kais of yayin, and then at 1:30 you sit down to eat lunch, you're not going to say, when I bench on lunch, it's going to cover the cup of wine that I drank at 12 o'clock. No. A glass of wine that you drink at 12 o'clock has no connection to a Suda that you eat at 1:30. We're talking about lunch is 1:30. At 1:28, you drank a kais of yayin. At 1:29, you got up and you went and you washed, and at 1:30, you made a maitzi. So now the yayin that you drank at 1:28 is an appetizer to the Suda that you're eating, that you're starting at 1:30. And it's ba machmas hasuda, and it's covered by benching. Okay. Ois kal chafei, the Mechaber said, even a bigger kiddush. And this is true even if you didn't drink any wine toich hasuda. Va'afilu loy. Now if you look at the Mechaber, you see that the word loy is in brackets. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that word loy belongs there. Va'afilu loy. Kain sarach loymer. That's what it's supposed to say. Or ritzona loymer. What the Mechaber is trying to tell you is, da'afta oz loy shaykh loymer drushtia achasim elu shabaseich hasimda. If you drank yayin during the Suda, so then you could come up with a logic. Benching is going to cover the yayin that I drank during the Suda. No. The yayin that I drank during the Suda is really a continuation of the yayin that I drank before the Suda, so benching will cover all of it. Says the Mechaber, no, even if you didn't drink yayin during the Suda, benching covers the yayin that you drank before the Suda, because the yayin before the Suda is an appetizer. It's considered machmas hasuda. Afilu achi paiter dehein asman b'klal sudahein v'chanal. Okay, now I want to skip the rest of this Mishnah Berurah for a moment And let's do Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Chavav, and then we'll come back. Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Chavav. V'ayin lekamon soif siman reish ayin veiz. He makes it ayin reish veiv, so it shouldn't say ra'ev. Ra'ev means hunger. It's a bad word, so we make it ayin reish veiz. The Ramah sent us to Siman reish ayin vav. Why is the Ramah sending us to Siman reish ayin vav? Says the Mishnah Berurah bomb. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he's sending us to reish ayin vav sif yud le'inyan kiddush. Ha ha ha. See, we talk about Yayin Lifnei Hamazon. We have Yayin Lifnei Hamazon all the time. We have Kiddush, Rabbi Isai. So hold it. Like I said yesterday, where does this come back to us? Where it comes back to us is Kiddush. Kiddush is Yayin Shel Lifnei Hamazon. So, you sit down to the Suda. First, you pour yourself some Cabernet, and you make Kiddush. That's Yayin Lifnei Hamazon. Let's say you drink a Revius. You drink a revius of yayin, you're chayiv in a berachah Achrona. Do you make an agefen, or do you wait for benching at the end of the Suda and pater it with benching? Well, we just learned a halacha over here that when you drink yayin kaidam hamazon, it's patered by benching. So l'chayra, kiddush is yayin shelifnei hamazon, and it should be patered by benching. Indeed, says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Chavav, that the Ramah, this is why the Ramah sent you to Siman Reish Ayin Veiz, which is Hilchos Shabbos, Sif Yud, Le'inyan Kiddush, the Sham Mavur, because over there it's explained, the Gambai Berkas Hamazon Paitrasai, that Berkas Hamazon paters Kiddush as well, Va'ayin Bir Halacha. But then he sends us to Bir Halacha, Dibur HaMaschil, V'chein Paiteres Yayin Shelifnei Hamazon. Okay, says the Bir Halacha. Do I have time? I'm going to take the time. Says the Bir Halacha. Ein din zebor. This is not so clear, not so simple. Now, look what the Chavetz Chaim did. The Chavetz Chaim seemingly, it sounds like the Mishnah Berurah. I don't know if I want to say that he's being machariah in Ois Katan Chavav, but in Ois Katan Chavav, the Mishnah Berurah is telling you, why did the Ramah send you to Reish Ayin Veiz? The Ramah sent you to Reish Ayin Veiz because in Reish Ayin Veiz we're talking about Kiddush. And over there we say that the Yayin of Kiddush is patered by benching. Says the Bir Halacha, but Ein Din Zebar. Not so clear. Ayin Baramban, B'Mechamas, Perak Avi Psachim, Uberan. Desoivrim Sham, they hold over there, Debein B'Yayin Shel Kiddush, Ubein Shar Yayin Shel Lifnei Hamazon, Tzarich Bracha Achrona. We have the Melchamas and we have the Ran that both hold that Yayin Shel Lifnei Hamazon and Kiddush do need their own Bracha Achrona. They're not patered by benching. V'chein das ha-taisis psachim kuf amid beis, soif dibra maschil yidei yayin ayin sham. Ulefi zeh nira, and based on this, the Chavetz Chaim in the Bir Halacha says, Ulefi zeh nira, it seems to be shenochayin le'inyan kiddush, that it would be proper by kiddush, shaloi lishtois rak kimaloi lugma, that you shouldn't drink more than a maloi lugma of yayin. Why? To avoid having a chiyuv of bracha achrona. You don't have a chiyuv of bracha achrona until you drink a revius. So the Chavetz Chaim says, Kiddush, don't drink a revius. Drink a malei lugma. That way you don't generate a true chiyuv of a bracha achrona. Achakach matzasi shekei kasa b'chai adam klal mem aleph siv gimel. V'im shasa kolakais. But what do you do if you did drink more than a malei lugma? What happens if you drank a revius? So now you do have a chiyuv of a bracha achrona. Says the Bir Halacha, Yechavein be'eis berkas hamazon lifter hayayin sheshasa b'kodim. You should have specific das by benching to cover the yayin of kiddush. V'yoytza b'zeh b'di'evet ukid lakaman b'simin reish chesef yudzayin. Achein, however, lefi bashe b'vur b'paiskim to b'mashke yesh deis to b'chai v'yafilu b'kazayis v'kol shkei b'roi v'revius. He's hedging his bets. He says there are those Bandi Amrim that say that you're not even going to help yourself if you limit yourself to a malei lugma. You must drink a malei lugma to be yotze kiddush. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Once you drank a mali lugma, there are shitas that hold that you do have a chiv of berachah achrona. So we have over here the shita of the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim is of the opinion that when you make kiddush, you have to have specific das by benching, that the benching covers the berachah achrona on the ayin, because otherwise he's worried because of these rishonim, the Malchamis, the Ran, the Chayodam. He's worried that benching does not cover kiddush. Now, by kiddush, there's a svara why it shouldn't be covered. You see, yayin shelef ne'amazon, we said, is covered because it's ba machmas hasuda. Kiddush is mitzvah. Kiddush is not so much machmas hasuda. So berachas hamazon is going to cover kiddush. So the truth is that this is part of a longer discussion that we're not going to get into anymore today. We're going to have to cover it tomorrow. You see that the next Biur Halach is very long. I'll just give you a heads up. I'll give you a teaser for tomorrow. And that is, we're going to have to discuss this shaila as well for other drinks that you might drink by kiddush. Let's say you make kiddush and you eat a piece of cake and you drink a coffee. And then right away you go for the tilas yadayim and hamoitzi to the suda. What happens to the berachah achrona on the coffee? What happens to berachah achrona on soda that you drank by kiddush? Is that covered by benching? It wasn't part of the suda. It came before the suda. So we're going to have to discuss it. We're going to see that the Chavetz Chaim is very machmir. The Aruch HaShulchan makes it very, very simple. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss of limud HaTorah should be begging against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe should send Yeshua's the first panas and Shadukim to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the Gula Shlema, that the B'Yeskel Tzedek B'Meher V'Yameinu. Amen. Be well.